Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Sunday Run podcast. I'm so sorry we missed a week. We are going every second week at the moment. A little bit packed, so much going on. But I've been looking forward to this episode for a long time now. We've had a few huge runs on the weekend. I'm joined by Knox, who did a 24-hour run for MS, and obviously Charlie Crozier as well, who did the marathon with me. Boys, thanks so much for coming down.
No worries. Thanks for having us, Louis.
Thanks very much, Lou.
Yeah.
Been looking forward to this as well. I love getting down and having a chat and just reflecting on what was a pretty good week for us all.
Mate, a fantastic week. And in terms of running, it doesn't get much better than this. I know we are going to get fitter as we grow, and we're going to do a lot of runs together, but this has kind of been a peak weekend for me. Charlie, I wanted to start with you and just like an introduction to the people that are listening. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? You've been a huge part, not only in my running story, especially with the marathon, but in also connecting Hugh and I together. So do you want to talk a little bit about that and kind of volley and so on?
Yeah, 100%. So for those watching, Hugh and Louis obviously did a podcast about a month to 6 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And basically we'd been liaising with them both individually for about a month or so prior. But effectively we are a volley, and we're a platform that connects people and companies to causes, and our underlying goal is to amplify societal impact. So effectively we saw Hugh running this great cause, running to raise money for MS, and then connected him with Louis, who obviously had this huge platform, heaps of distribution, and an interest for running, and we saw the opportunity to connect the two and then to amplify what Hugh was doing. So our underlying vision at Volley is to get more people doing more good more often. So we're channeling everything volunteering, donating, skilled giving into a single platform. And we think that everyone has their unique way to give back, and not to sound too cliche, but like their superpower. And your superpower is running and social media, which Hugh's obviously taken on board quite well. So yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So, volley's in its infancy at the moment, isn't it? It's like just getting started.
It is. Yeah.
Have you had any other case studies that you're kind of working on at the moment?
We've got a few. So, we're launching a podcast to capture a couple of them, but at the moment, we've been mostly focused on partnerships and the build of an app. So, the center of what we're trying to do is launch an application that simplifies and rewards giving to others. And so, first and foremost, we'll match skills and interests to the roles that are most meaningful to the individual, reward them with points similar to a Flybuys, and then also build in a social feed to try to create accountability out of doing good. So I'm sure that we're all here pretty big fans of Strava. What Strava managed to do so well is to create accountability around doing good, and also a community around fitness. We're trying to capture the same thing and create a community around impact. Awesome,
mate. It's so cool to see. You've hooked Hugh and I up together, and I remember we've been talking for a while now, and it's been such a fun process. Hugh, Volley, what's it been like for you?
Yeah, Volley's just been quite transformative for me, and the run and the fundraiser that I undertook. It was really special to be able to connect with you and be able to leverage your platform to spread the word and raise awareness for MS. And just from a personal perspective, working with the boys at Volley has just been an absolute pleasure. They're so easy to get along with. They took a massive part in actually organising and taking a hold of all the administrative issues that came with running for 24 hours. So it was something that I'm really thankful for, and I just really think that the boys really exemplify the message they're trying to send.
Mate, it's so cool to see. It's been so fun, literally the best weekend of our lives. Now, for those that are listening, we're having a couple of beers here. We're genuinely celebrating. Charlie and I did a huge marathon. Cheers, lads. Get into it. We did a huge marathon, 44 Ks along the Great Ocean Road. Hugh did a run for charity through MS, and a lap around Princes Park in Melbourne, one lap every hour for 24 hours. So there's a lot that goes into that, and some things that I've had a lot of questions about. Really interesting side of it, running through the night and so on. Give us a general synopsis of your run, Hugh, and we'll get into it deeper in a sec.
Yeah, so I think the main thing that I wanted to get out of the run was just a strong sort of mental challenge for me, because I found it hard to find where those limits were in the past. And so I thought if I can be out overnight exercising for an extended period of time, to really try and challenge myself whilst doing it for a good cause. It sounded sort of like the perfect outcome for me. In terms of the nighttime, that was quite challenging, but it was also kind of beautiful being out at night, sort of on your own, running around laps around a park in the city. You sort of see different perspectives and yeah, it's just quiet. It was peaceful, so it was very rewarding in that sense as well.
Can you give a high-level overview about what the run was again?
An overview?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the idea of the run was to run one lap of Princess Park each hour for 24 hours. So that's about 3.2k a lap, or about 77k across the whole 24-hour period. And yeah, with the goal of raising money for MS. So my mum was diagnosed with MS in 2008. And it's just something that I've been trying to do, just to try and not only support her, but raise awareness within the community, because a lot of people have heard of what the disease is, but are actually unsure or uncertain as to how it impacts you or what it does, because it's actually a silent disease. So a lot of people suffer from it that you don't know until it progresses and eventually will shut down your nervous system and you'll be paralysed or won't be able to walk or talk. Yeah. But that is usually something that happens quite far down the track.
Yeah, and I think you use the platform, you use the platform of what you're doing as like an awesome exhibit of both raising money and then also spreading awareness. So kudos to you. I know that you're sitting number one of everyone in Australia as having raised the most amount of funds, which is
I was about to say, like such a successful run, especially in regards to charity. Like,
for sure,
mate, I've spoken to a lot of people doing charity runs. Like, nowhere near as successful, and not to anyone doing a charity run, whether you raise $1 or $100,000, like, it's fantastic. But it's been so successful in that regard, and we'll get into it in a sec, especially the emotions behind it all. Charlie, do you want to give us a brief synopsis of the marathon, what it was? How it was, what you thought?
Yeah,
just
so
a quick one.
This was both mine and Louis' first marathon, so naturally a little bit of nerves going into it, I feel. The Great Ocean Marathon, for those that don't know, is between Lorne and Apollo Bay. One of probably the hillier courses that you could probably do in Australia. We also picked the absolute day for it in terms it was spitting rain, probably about 50-kilometre winds.
Headwinds, mind you.
Yeah, headwinds.
Big ones I've heard.
Which weren't great. But awesome event. I think there was 1,200 people roughly in the full marathon, which was awesome. Overall synopsis, like, to be honest, like, probably the worst I've ever felt going into a run in my entire life. Like, I was so strenuous about my preparation, my carb loading, my hydration. Every sort of supplement that I could possibly take to reduce cramps and whatnot. And then just took off and everything just felt wrong. Like, was so heavy. Heart rate spiked to about 180 straight away. Stepped in a puddle, so I had wet feet for the whole run. And then I also had the mother of all blisters that showed up at that 2Ks. And then by the end of it, I had literal tomato sauce leaking out the side of my foot.
Which was blood.
Which was blood. And so I was just in the absolute hurt locker. And it crossed my mind. I know that probably about 3Ks in, so we're running with another mate, Zach Pavolny, and he was carrying us at most of the run.
Goggins.
He's a weapon.
The three of us, me, Zach, and Louis, were running together and going well. And there was a good, 5Ks where I was going back and forth in my head of like, can I stop? Do I stop? Do I stop? And I was like, I was like, I can't be the bloke that pulled out of a marathon. So had to grit my teeth. But yeah, the first 21Ks, I was, in a lot of pain.
I reckon I told you about 2Ks in, hey, we're going to do a marathon, going to do a podcast this week talking about the marathon. So
kept
you better get through, King. He pulled through. Hugh, let's get into your run. So a couple of things I wanted to talk about. Firstly, like the charity, which we've gone over, such a successful result. So incredible, really impressive. I'm so impressed by everything you do and everything Volley's managed to do with it. Talk to me about the promotion of the run and what worked for your run.
Sure. So I think like when you're promoting a fundraiser, the first thing to do is try and set a challenge which people are going to look at and be almost shocked by, because I think it's the shock factor that really actually ends up encouraging people to get involved or get around you and celebrate what you're trying to do. One thing that I picked up, which I found really challenging to do, was the social media side of things. I had Louis on board to help me sort of teach me how to create content, how to post TikToks, what works, what doesn't work. And I think just having that created a sense of legitimacy amongst people that I know or people who saw my fundraiser. And so as we've touched on as well, we managed to we're just shy of $21,000 now, which is I'm just so happy with, and I can't thank.
Goal of 15K, wasn't it?
A goal of 15K. So it just blew it out of the water on the last day. So between Friday and Saturday, we raised almost $6,000. We had a bake sale which went amazingly as well. We earned about $1,000 from that.
Awesome.
But yeah, I just honestly couldn't have done it without the amazing support crew that I have surrounding me. It goes such a long way to have people around you. And if you want to do something like this, ensure you get a strong team of people who are there to help you.
You mentioned the start, like the social media side. Yeah. So obviously, like what to post is difficult, how to post it. For me, and as someone who is an influencer or whatever you want to call me, like it comes back to just having confidence to post. And
that's exactly right.
Taking the jump from posting like going out content, getting on the piss with your friends, like that content to like, this is how you run a 10K.
Yeah.
That is a huge jump. And there's no way to soften that. How did you find it?
Well, yeah, exactly. There's no way to soften it. And it's incredibly jarring for a lot of people who are used to seeing your Instagram stories of you out of the pub or a pitch or something. And then next minute...
Almost harder than the marathon.
Yeah, exactly. I reckon not far off. And then next minute you're saying, well, how do I run a faster 5K? And it takes people sort of a bit unsure about what you're doing, but eventually the message gets through. And if you're wanting to get into content, you just have to put the blinkers on and ignore what potentially other people are thinking and what other people are saying and just post it. Because at the end of the day, you need to do what you want to do to make your cause go as successfully as possible.
You have this perception, and like I can't speak personally, but you have this perception of, I feel like, what people will think of you doing that. But realistically, like you're 100%. Doing it for such a great cause that no one's going to
exactly. And people, random people I don't know, or even just sort of mates who I'm not super close with, are coming up to me and saying, mate, like I'm loving what you're doing. The posting's incredible. And when you start getting that feedback, you realise that all the stuff you think people are trying to, all the stuff you think that people are saying about you or thinking about you, it just doesn't happen. It's just
it doesn't
fabrication.
Happen. And it's if it does happen, it's behind your back.
It doesn't matter.
And who cares?
Yeah. And if they're going to be there, like, talking shit about you trying to raise money for a fundraiser, then that's a pretty poor reflection on them themselves.
Yeah.
So like, I just wouldn't worry about it. And
exactly.
Just got to get stuck
so
in.
Take us back to the run. So actually, let's go back to training first. How long did you train for, and what was your training like?
I probably did maybe 2.5 months worth of actual running training, but I had already been doing fitness training for about a year leading into it, so I had a pretty good base to start off, and I've always done a fair bit of running throughout my life, so it was a pretty easy way to transition into it. And I just purely focused on getting the Ks under my legs and just trying to be out there as often as possible and running as much as possible. So I think when I peaked, I sort of was doing about 80K a week.
Yeah, massive.
Which I think, given the short time frame, wasn't the smartest call, because I did pick up a few sort of small injuries through doing that. So I think looking back and reflecting, I would probably still like to hit that 80K a week peak, but maybe do it over 3 or 4 months as opposed to 2.5, make the transition a bit smoother.
What was your split between low intensity runs and high intensity runs?
Yeah, it was probably about, everyone sort of talks a lot about the 80-20 rule, and I did follow that pretty closely. And the 80-20 rule, if you're unsure, means 80% of your runs should be done slowly in the zone 2 heart rate, or if you can have a conversation with your mates if you go with them, and 20% hard. But I might have even actually done more slower runs than my harder runs, because I was just so worried about getting injured. And the harder runs is where you're going to pick up your injuries. So I knew that for me, I always was going to have the fitness, and this event wasn't anything about speed. So I could sort of negate that speed training a little bit and just be out there running.
If I had my time again, I definitely would have stuck by that. Like I was training with Zach, the third guy that we did our marathon with, and we would set ourselves a pace of like let's hold 5. Yeah. And then we'd start and we'd be like, oh, we're feeling good, like let's push for like 420s and 430s.
And I reckon that's the Strava effect, isn't it?
It is. The Strava effect will really do it to you, because when you're out there running, you're feeling good, you go, hang on, I can put a pretty good time up on Strava here. Like I want people to show off a bit for people, but yeah, you just got to tone it back and watch where you go. But even the runs that we've done together were pretty quick, a couple of them. Yeah. We worked.
Oh, we were flying that 10K.
Pretty fast.
It seems counterintuitive though for like running slower to go faster. Like it doesn't make any logical sense when you think about it.
Yeah.
And so I always assumed that I was doing the right thing of trying to push myself and trying to like, if I ran my last 10K at 5, then I would try to run the next one at 450 or whatnot, which makes sense because you see that you're actually improving.
Yeah.
Where realistically it's it's the opposite. You should just be trying to get more time on legs.
And I think a big trap that comes in with that one as well is well, for me personally, is I went into this run not knowing specifically where my limits or fitness was at, because so much of my running had been slow. I didn't give myself an opportunity to test how fast I could go properly or how long I could run for. So I think if you are sticking to the 80-20 rule, make sure you at least have one like tough threshold session before your event, just to have a rough idea of where your fitness is at. Because if you go into it, you might leave time on the table.
All right, so we're at the run, lap 1. Well, firstly, how did you sleep the night before and the lead up to it? And
Slept terribly the night before. I wasn't nervous or anything, but your mind is racing about what you're about to deal with. And so I was up early on Friday morning, tried to have a sleep on Friday afternoon, didn't happen, and then just got into lap 1. I had a nice crew of people down supporting me through lap 1. Had a beautiful volley shirt, which was donated generously to run around in.
We love volley.
We love volley here. But yeah, no, it didn't. The first few laps were quite easy, and that's the strange thing about doing an event like this, is that it just creeps up on you really slowly. You know, the lack of sleep, not being able to eat properly because you're exercising, and it only started getting really hard at about 5 to 7 a.m. because I was so desperate for the sun to come up.
What time did you start, sorry?
I started at 5 p.m, sorry.
Yep.
So about just over halfway, it started getting really tough because I was just so desperate for the sun to come up, because I needed my body clock to reset. I needed the melatonin and the sun to deal with that. And I was just hanging out and just staring at the sky, waiting for it to get light. And then once it got light, it was okay. But yeah, that 5 to 7 was a pretty dark time for me.
I FaceTimed Hugh at about 7 a.m, I reckon.
Yeah.
And I spoke to Hugo first, and so Liam's one of the other guys at Volley, one of my co-founders, and he goes, yeah, man, he's been battling a bit. He was falling asleep in his chair, we're having to shake him awake to say, hey, mate, you've got to run a lap.
You're ready to go. You're up.
Probably the rudest awakening.
There's nothing worse than getting awakened and someone saying, actually, mate, you've got to get up and run a lap around the park. Sorry, mate, that's just what happens.
And it's how long's the distance around the...
So it's about, we'll call it 3K, because depending on where you start or finish, so it's roughly 3K. So that's the other challenging thing about the run, is that 3K is probably just enough time for you to start getting warm. I mean, if you're on your run right now, you might be hitting the 3K mark and starting to feel a bit more comfortable. And so as soon as you start to get warm, you have to stop again and you cool back down. So it's just this almost constant stop-start torture of getting warm and stopping and then having to get warm and go again.
I know that, and you're stopping for what, 40 minutes or so?
Yeah,
so
pretty much.
For the footy players on board, I know, listening now, half time is the absolute pits. I used to absolutely hate how you have to you'd be warm, you'd be on a roll, you'd stop, you'd sit down for half an hour, 40 minutes, and then you have to go out again, and every single bit of knock or everything that's sore just flares up and it freezes,
it's
so
really painful.
Having to do that again and again and again and again would have been absolute torture.
Yeah, it was absolute torture, but I almost would prefer to do that than deal with some of the hills that you boys had to take on.
We'll get into that in a sec. Yeah, mate, those hills were fucked. I'm never again.
Yeah.
But all right, so talk us through your emotions through it. I got there at the end. The last lap, pretty much, just rolled in, said, "How are we, lads? How's things?" And
Sydney Fashion Week.
Flew in from Sydney and said, "G'day to Huey," and he hasn't bloody slept in 24 hours. And you were, well spoken. You looked pretty good. I could tell you were tired.
Yeah.
And you came up to me at the end and you said thanks, which I appreciate. But I could tell you were quite emotional and stuff.
Yeah, it was massively
how's the
emotional.
emotions behind it? And especially seeing your mum and I think your dad there as well.
Well, it was great because my whole family came down for the run. I've got 4 younger siblings and a mum and dad. So I'm the oldest in my family. So it was really important for me to be able to have them there to, all be involved in this event, which is representative of our family more broadly. And on top of that, we probably had about 100 people come down and listen to a couple of speakers I organised talk about MS. So going through the last couple of laps, it was quite emotional. It was quite teary, actually, going down the last laps, just sort of processing what I've gone through and what I've organised, and just this sort of sense of community which we'd managed to bring together over this issue. So it was really incredible. And then when I finished, I was just almost a bit shell-shocked, because I was just so stoked and so happy, but also just being fuck, I haven't slept for this long, I can't think properly. But yeah, for me, definitely one of the highlights was just seeing the sense of community which the whole event brought out, and just really reminded me of the really great support network that I've got around me. Went a long way.
It was so cool to see. Like it was so impressive. The chats you had, obviously, like the speakers were really impressive, and the education on MS and so on was genuinely awesome. Would you go back and change anything about your, maybe not preparation? We've kind of gone through that, but anything you did in the park, maybe like people showing up or people trying to run with you? Would there be anything that you would change for if you were to do this again?
I think in terms of people turning up to run with me, I didn't want to prevent that from happening because, as I said, my whole goal for the weekend was to have as many people involved as possible. And at times, like all I wanted to do was just put my headphones in and ignore everyone and just nut out the Ks. But there's a greater cause underlying the whole event, and so I wanted people to get there and be involved. But I think potentially I didn't nail my nutrition quite right. I had organised, I basically made like a bunch of mashed potato and like little chicken patties, which I'd hoped to eat, get a good amount of protein and carbs in. But yeah, when you're in the middle of the night, it's freezing cold, it's raining, and you're pulling out cold meal prep from the esky.
Cold mash.
Cold mash, which just like congeals. It just was just not good. And because I didn't want to eat it, I didn't eat properly. And I think that really impacted the way I felt in the morning, because I was going through massive ups and downs. I'd feel elated, over the moon 1 minute, and then next minute just crash and just have the shits at everyone and be angry and be pissed off, and then good again. So it was a really, really difficult to regulate the emotion in that sense as well.
What was your, did you feel like isolated at all during it? Because I know that genuinely the one thing that got me through was having, Louis and Zach by my side the whole time for my run. Obviously yours is like it's a solo effort. Did you feel like you were isolated or?
Not at all, actually, because for one, I pretty much had people running with me for every lap throughout the whole 24-hour period. And as well, I got a group of my mates together and we set up shift times, so for specific people to be there at specific times, which really helped through the overnight period, because I always had at least 2 people with me in the park overnight. And so it really helped in that sense to be able to come back to almost an element of comfort with people around you who you love, who are able to be there and support you. But yeah, overall, it was just a really incredible experience.
It was cool. It was so cool to see at the end, mate. I loved chatting to you, and I could tell you were almost holding back tears, and I felt that a lot after the marathon. I don't know about you, Charlie, but my mum called me, and or just getting messages from my sister and my friends and mum and dad as well, and it's you actually almost get emotional, and you're so fatigued that you can't control those emotions, so you're kind of swelling up a little bit.
You're exactly right. When you're that fatigued, you're so fragile and vulnerable to anything, and the slightest thing might set you off. Just seeing your mum's name pop up on your phone.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet. She's calling me. So I fully understand where you're coming from. How do you feel, Charlie? Were you a bit emotional? Or
a little bit emotional. I was just absolutely gassed. Had nothing left.
Yeah.
But my mum actually called me. She got held up at Skeens Creek, which is about 2 or 3 Ks from the finish line. And she got there an hour and a half and she got stuck in the traffic. So I was just receiving a barrage of texts being like, I'm so sorry, I've missed it. And I was at that point, I was just like, I just need some water and some food. All good. And she came over and she was, super sweet. But definitely felt it.
What about injuries for you, Hugh? When I got there, you said your words, my knee's fucked.
It was fucked.
My left leg is fucked.
Yeah.
And I said, well, unlucky, mate. You signed up to it. You better figure out a way to get around.
Well, that was actually perfect timing for you rocking up, because I needed a fresh face who I knew I needed to not impress, but I needed to work in front of.
Yeah.
So when Louis rocked up and my knee was gone, I was like, all right, well, I don't have a choice now. I've got to fucking do it.
What lap number was this?
This was lap 23 or basically from lap 21 to 24, my knee went. So I had about somewhere between 12 and 15 Ks to do with a busted knee. And that just came down to having IT band tightness, which has pulled something in my knee. But yeah, just trying to run around with a limp. I should have just walked. I was basically walking. I was going so slow. But it was more just the pride of, I know I need to look like I'm running what I'm doing here. Ego, exactly. I was always talking about getting rid of your ego, but I'm just can't help it.
No, it's good to utilise it at some times.
Yeah, exactly. But injury-wise was very lucky, to be honest, until lap 21, and then knee went. But it's fine now. It just was a bit of stress, I think, at the time.
Yeah. I had the exact same thing after my run.
Yeah.
What about after? So I remember talking to you before the run, keen to kind of kick on, have a couple of beers and, kick on into the night, just cruise on through. How'd that go?
I realised pretty early on in the run that I wasn't going to be doing anything after. I was keen to have some beers and celebrate after, and I did have like half a Carlton Dry maybe at the park because we had some beers dropped off. But just randomly, like I just couldn't get beers down, just didn't feel like drinking it. And I was so elated with the result that I just didn't feel like I needed to have anything to drink either. We went home, ordered a pizza and had a couple cans of Coke Zero and passed out.
Were you craving anything during the run?
I got intense salt cravings. I actually asked my sister to go back to my house and pick up my box of Himalayan sea salt because I was needed
with
salty food with the water, which you got me onto.
So good.
And I've been doing it every morning since, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because it's just so good. But yes, salt. And then when I was eating my food, I was layering it up with salt. And but that was pretty much the only thing. Because eventually, the next day, when you haven't slept, I think the fatigue almost outweighs your need for food. And I still was eating. I was trying to eat 30 grams of carbs every hour. So that's like a banana or a sandwich or something with a couple of big meals dispersed between.
Yeah, the salt's a human trick, but I was the same. Like I put up, I was talking like a hero. I was like, I can't wait to run to the finish line. And those that don't know, the finish line for the Lawn Mara is literally at the Apollo Bay pub. And I just envisioned that I'll cross the line, get a few photos or whatnot, say hey to my friends, and then run straight to the front of the pub, get a pot and do a shoey. Didn't quite go to plan. Instead I ran over the line, just went white.
Yeah.
Had blood pissing out of both my shoes from my blisters, and my friend took me to the med tent to get them patched up. So
finished at the med tent.
Yeah, there's a photo of me.
Always a sign of a good night.
Yeah, looking a bit sorry in the med tent.
You might have ended up there anyway, so.
Yeah.
After the shoey.
Just get there early.
Yeah, a bit of a contrast.
But, oh, absolutely brutal. So after coming days after the run, lethargic, very tired.
Yeah, just lethargic and tired. Legs have actually pulled up pretty well, and I've just sort of got a few little things hanging around now, but nothing too bad. But I was just saying earlier that even little tasks, I went to the supermarket yesterday and came home and I was like, fuck, I just need to sit on the couch for 20 minutes and scroll TikTok for a bit because I'm gassed. So it's really surprising how much it takes out of your week when you have a massive loss of sleep. But yeah, feeling good now.
I noticed after our run, Charlie, I had almost like a come down. My serotonin was depleted. Not straight after the run. It was about 3 days or 2 days after because I stayed in Lawn in a lovely Airbnb for a couple of days after. And then when I got home from the Airbnb, it was fuck, done the run. Seen my friends, had a couple of drinks. And now it's just me and my thoughts at home. Did you notice any kind of...
Yeah, I've had a massive letdown this week, to be honest. And I think a lot of it has to do with achieving quite a clear goal. And once you've got that goal achieved, you're almost left with a sense of a lack of purpose in your life. And the same thing, because you have such a massive dopamine spike on the day when you achieve your goal, you've got everyone coming up to you, you feel a great sense of self-achievement. And then Monday, you're back to work, getting up and getting on the tram, going to work or whatever. You're just sort of thinking the contrast between where you were on the weekend versus where you are now is a recipe for disaster, I think.
I think it was Israel Adesanya on Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO podcast was saying that after Izzy's first title win, he checked himself into therapy the day after because he just had this huge spike and crash. So I think it's pretty common. Obviously, we're finishing our first marathon and winning a world title in the UFC.
Yeah, same. To be honest,
but the same sort of thing. You set yourself a goal, you work towards it. For me, that was my life. For 7-8 weeks became my personality. In a bit, I was like, I'm running a marathon. Wasn't drinking and everything like that. So everything was channeling towards that, and then you reach and it sort of feels what next? And it's a little bit, I guess, scary, but I guess it's all part of it.
And for you particularly, Charlie, your prep for the Mara was very dialed in. You had everything. You picked Louis and I up and improved our prep as well, looking at the way you were preparing for it. So I can imagine for you as well, when you're going about your weeks with such precision and with such a clear goal, to then complete it and then go back to Monday and go, I don't have to watch what I ate today, or I don't have to go and spend half an hour on the roller or whatever it is. You sort of lose that sense.
You kind of throw it all away, don't you? It's I just straight into beers after the run, and it's that's just gone. I'm not caring about eating, sleeping's not too. And personally, I've allowed myself a week to do that because I need that mental, relax. But it's tough. Anyway, Hugh, I'm so impressed by. Firstly, obviously, your run. The charity side of it is such a win, but for me, mate, and someone who's been in this situation, and I've mentioned it already, but like the social media side, I can't express how difficult that is to do, especially in terms of like changing kind of your identity on social media and starting to post about it. I think it's really impressive, and I hope we keep seeing more from you in that regard.
Yeah, definitely. I really want to continue it because I feel like once, as you said, once you've taken that first initial leap and got through that difficult phase, you're sort of doing a disservice to yourself if you don't maintain it. Same with running. If you've been out there running for a little while and then you sort of stop, all that hard work you put in to get where you want to be. But yeah, Louis, as you say, it's a lot harder than I ever thought it was going to be. I thought that was going to be the easy part. And the training and the run itself didn't even come close to how challenging the social media side of it. But in saying that, it was also one of the more rewarding aspects of it.
And people love like that side of like yeah, you're going to go to, you're in law, like you're going to go to festivals as well, but you can also run. So you can document all of that and put it into your social media. And for those listening, go and follow Hugh Knox on Instagram, HUW. And like there's going to be great content around that because like Australia needs that. Long gone are the days of robotic influences and robotic like,
pigeonholed.
Yeah. Like people don't care about that anymore. I want to see someone who's gone to a festival, had a really fun time, but then is backing it up a couple of days later and going for a run or doing whatever.
There's an analogy where like if you go to a circus and you see a unicycle, like it's impressive, but it's not that impressive. And if you see an elephant, it's impressive, but not that impressive. But if you see an elephant on a unicycle, it's awesome. And I think that's the same thing for having like the contrasting two things.
I agree. And that's something that I really want to start promoting a lot more, especially within the fitness community, is this notion of balance. And you should be able to enjoy your weekends, go to festivals, go to the pub, whilst going to work, working hard at whatever your job is, and exercising. There's no reason why you can't do all three of those. And whilst it is important to make sure you're doing each in moderation with an occasional blowout here or there, there is so much scope for you to complete all three at a really high level.
What would you say would be your recommendation for someone who felt a hesitation about starting to post? Like, how did you sort of break down this very sort of intimidating thing of like, I've got to put out all this content, I've got to, reinvent myself. Like, did you have like a structured step of like, I'm just going to do like 2 posts a week, or I'm going to do 1 TikTok, or?
The way that I did it firstly was I created a more sort of introductory style video that allowed me to get onto the social media platforms and explain what my overall message or what I wanted to spread was. And so that was a bit of a different format to the way that I ended up posting videos, which was with videos with a voiceover. But I found once I did that, that really allowed me to then come into my own and understand how I wanted to post videos and have a bit of a better structure to it. And in terms of frequency of posting, I'm not as frequent as I should be with it, just for several reasons. But on the TikTok app, it says you need to post like 10 videos a week or something ridiculous, that's too much for me. But just start with one, and it's never going to be your best. I'm sure, Louis, you'll say that your early videos were they're nowhere near.
I can't watch them.
No, they're nowhere near as good as they are now, and it's going to come with time. It's like everything. Rome wasn't built in a day.
I think that's the same with I love my stats. There's a stat with podcasts that if you 90% of podcasts never make it past the 3rd episode, and 99% never make it past the 20th episode. So if you just post enough podcasts to get to the 21st episode, you're already in the 1%, which I think is the same for content. I don't know the stats for content, but just just grinding out the reps effectively.
Just got to do it. Just got to post, be consistent. And as I said earlier, just don't worry about outside noise, because at the end of the day, you're doing it for you, and you're doing it for the people who get around you and support you, and even random people. Like since I've had random people on TikTok liking my videos, that's been really, really interesting to see. Because I'm like, actually, maybe my content's not as average as I thought it was.
100%.
Yeah.
2 things. Firstly, I want to get into your first hate comment, which we love. A hate comment is great, but before that, so I remember you sending me like your first video, Hugh, where you were explaining, I gave you a few tips in terms of what you need to do to explain what you're doing and capture an audience. So we have, for those listening, we have the 2-second rule. Every 2 seconds there needs to be a new thing on the screen, flashing lights, ADHD, think 3-year-old is watching all the time. Voice overlapping, new thing on the screen, bang, bang, bang. Oh, I'm not going to scroll. That was the first one. And then the second one was like, at your first video to me was just you sitting there talking, and it looks quite awkward. And then I sent you that video of Jordan Belfort in
Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, the Wolf of Wall Street, which is such a good video. And
that was inspirational for me, Lou. It's the scene when he's walking through the trading floor and the camera is walking. He's walking towards the camera and the camera's walking backwards.
Yeah.
And he's being very expressive and emotive to the camera. And when he sent that to me, I was like,
so I sent that to you, and I said, just repeat everything you said, but do it in this format and take the piss.
Yeah.
That and Ben Cousins, those are the two from the Ben Cousins doco. It's like if you can emulate those, it's like you will get into the flow. And then your second video was tenfold better. So if for those listening, instead of just sitting there and talking to the camera, try and get someone to hold it, make them walk backwards. You walk towards the camera and speak to it, use your hands, so on. Hugh, talk to me through your first hate comment.
So first hate comment was posted by Arvo Longies. Shout out, mate. Appreciate it. He has said, elite chat with the boys and smash some, referring to what I said in my video. When talking about drinks and food are the indicators of a massive bunch of douches. And I was looking forward to my first hate comment, and I had a few people backing me up.
Yeah.
Particularly, shout out to Sam Johnston, one of my best mates, has said, commenting unnecessarily negative shit on a post raising awareness for charity is an indicator of a massive douche.
Yeah.
And so I think he got in pretty well.
Mate, it's gold. If you're getting hate comments, you're doing something right. Like honestly, the whole run would have failed if you didn't get a hate comment, Hugh. So great work.
I know, and I thought that was bad, but then I have a look at some of the comments left on your videos, Louis, and I felt a lot better about myself.
I'm one, and then you go
to it, mate.
Yeah, I know. And then you go to Prime Train. I go, mate, I knock on Prime's door every night. Go, you good, brother?
Are you all right, mate?
Just checking in.
Just checking. Are you okay, Dave? For Prime every day,
and he handles it like an absolute king. Anyway, mate, the run was like so incredible. I'm so impressed by you. The charity, the money raised is so great, and
it's still open as well. So it's
still
made.
open.
Like I know that that was one of the things that I noticed was super rewarding for us to see like one of the comments on Hugh's MS run was a guy called Tom who donated over $100
from the
saying,
potty.
Yeah, saying, hey, like I saw you on Louis' potty, super inspired by this, absolutely love your work. So shout out to Tom if you're listening to this as well.
Tom, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, mate. It's nice to see that it's had an impact on people. And I'd have another couple of boys who are fans of Louis' potty come down and do a lap with me as well. So thank you to everybody who has come from this platform and been involved in that way.
No, it's beautiful. Honestly, the Sunday Run community is fucking incredible, and I love all of you guys.
Yeah.
We've got a lot to come. Charlie and I are going to talk through the marathon. We're going to talk about our future runs together, boys, or future runs that maybe not together, and then we've got a huge Q&A. Before we do that, I wanted to bring up Whoop, a little bit of a sponsored post that's actually not sponsored. I'm not obligated to do this, but a lot of you guys have been questioning me about my Whoop and how I use it. I use it every single day. It's been genuinely instrumental to my recovery and to my running. If you want to pick up a Whoop, go to the link in my bio. It'll say Whoop. If you pick it up, you get a month free of the subscription, and you're going to help me out a whole lot. So if you want to pick up a Whoop, go and check that out. Charlie.
Yeah, on the Whoop, I used to use one of the sleep cycle tracking apps. I'm not sure if you use them. How different is that to Whoop? Because I've been really contemplating getting it because I'm
in the market for a Whoop as well.
I'm selling it to you boys.
I'm a massive data guy, and the idea of being able to
absolutely.
track my sleep, I could just see myself just
I'm not joking. I've had a Garmin.
Yeah.
I've got an Apple Watch now. The Whoop is game changing in terms of physical ability, recovery, so on. So for sleep wise as well, I use the Whoop so much, and it is very. You see your sleep score and you're like, nah, that's actually bang on to how I feel.
Yeah.
So, and I play with that as well. So I'll be like, before I look at my sleep score on my Whoop, I'm going to guess what I got. Guess the hours I slept, my restorative sleep, and I'm almost bang on every time. So it's very accurate.
because I'm so particular about my sleep.
Yeah.
So particular. I tape my mouth, so I'm breathing through my nose. I go to sleep during the week at 8:30. I'm so particular about it. So being able to track that as well.
You love optimizing your life.
He's optimized as
any
a
opportunity
fuck.
you can get to optimize, you'll take it with both horns and just kill it.
So optimized.
So good.
I love it. Anyway, if you want to pick up a Whoop, go to the link in my bio. You're helping me out.
I'll be getting
you
there.
You get a Whoop yourself, and I really appreciate it. Charlie, the marathon. I want to talk about it.
Let's go.
You give me a rundown. I know you've already done it, but Great Ocean Road, 44 kilometres. So it's not 42.2, it's 44
Yeah.
And I tell you what, that actually, no, it's 44.6 or 7.
Yeah, 44 and a half, I reckon.
Yeah, and the rest. And that really annoyed me, to be honest. But anyway, a lot of hills, a lot of wind. How were you feeling before it, during it, and after it?
I was feeling great before it. So as we just like stated, like I'm so particular about anything that I can measure and like my preparation and you know, trying to optimize like outcomes and things like that. So I had my meal planning tracked to a T, you know, loaded up with gels, had all my electrolytes I've been smashing for however long. Sleep was impeccable. Started the race and yeah, couldn't have felt any worse. Like I don't reckon. Like in my whole like 3 months training block, like I reckon that was the worst by a country mile in terms of I took off, I felt heavy, I felt slow. My heart rate, as I said, got to like 180 and it didn't come back down for the whole thing. I got really hot, so like took off my singlet even though it was like 12 degrees, and that's not because I was wanting to get the rig out. I was genuinely
a good rig though.
I was genuinely, genuinely sweating.
Yeah.
Like we pulled up at the first water station, I was throwing water like on my back as other people were like wearing jumpers. So I just felt really, really off, to be honest. But I set a target for like, we were trying to do 3.5 hours for the marathon, wasn't overly fussed about, you know, the full thing. Managed to crack that, which we were stoked about. But yeah, overall, like it was by far the most challenging thing I've done in my life. Super grateful to have you and Zach alongside me for the whole trek, because definitely wouldn't have done it without you guys. Again, like the longest, like hilliest hills that I've ever had to trek across.
Ridiculous.
And to combat that as well, you'd pop over a hill and then you'd just have, like 50k headwinds just like trying to blow you back the other way. And so it was pretty brutal. So
it was brutal. It was literally the hardest thing I've ever done. And it took me to places that I didn't know I could go, especially mentally. Like the want to stop in that last kind of maybe 5-6 kilometres was just like so apparent, and I wouldn't have been able to do that without you boys next to me, I don't reckon. But
it's a 1 second rule. Like it only takes 1 second to stop. And I think that I was sitting in that zone for almost the whole race. Like definitely the first like 21Ks. I think that we had pretty different experiences.
Yeah.
In that, like you guys seemed like you flew through the first 21. I was really struggling for the first 21. Sort of came into my groove between 20 and 35, I would say. And then from 35 to 45 was hell again. But just the whole time, you just have this little voice in the back of your head saying, you know, you can stop, you can stop, you can stop. And it's just this constant battle of just saying, nah, I can push on. And I think that, when you say like you're pushing yourself to this place that you haven't been before, I think it's just this thing that, you know, I guess putting yourself out of your comfort zone, like saying you're comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like no one's ever died from sore feet or bung knees. So,
that we know of.
Yeah, that we know of.
and so I'm really interested to know as well, do both of you think that this experience has strengthened you mentally for challenges that you're going to face in just your day-to-day life now?
100%. Undisputed. I'm interested to see what
you know what I really noticed throughout the marathon, and I kept saying it to myself, was if I can do a 5-minute ice bath, which I did with you too, I can literally do any. I did a 5 minutes ice bath with you guys. So first one we did, I think 2 or 3 minutes.
We might have been 2. Definitely was less than 2. You got a bit longer than me.
So I hate to break it to you, saying, the time was 3:30, but that was counting backwards from 5:30. So it was 2 minutes on the dot, a little bit less.
Yeah.
There you go. So it was less than that.
That was pathetic.
But
you came around the next time.
We got the 5 the next time.
You got the 5 the next time, which is impressive. Normally it take honestly, ice baths, they're one of my favourite things to do, and it was introduced to me by the guys at the Breath House of, just seeking...
Shout out Breath House.
Shout out Breath House. Seeking discomfort, because if you can put yourself out of, making the decision to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation and then choosing to sit in that, you can effectively do anything. And I think that sitting in really cold ice is probably the hardest thing you can pretty much,
That's 100% what I felt. Like during the marathon, I was going, so 2 things for me. Firstly, if you can do an ice bath for 5 minutes, you can literally
run a marathon.
You can run a marathon. Secondly, was how lucky am I that the next 3.5 hours, hopefully, all I need to worry about is running this marathon. I don't have to worry about my Xero account, like accounting. I don't have to worry about getting someone to pay me or paying someone else. Like, this is such a fortunate position. And I've heard in other podcasts before talking about how like selfish running a marathon and training a marathon is. And it's so true. Like, it is a purely selfish thing. And it felt a lot like that for me, because it's like, well, I'm not going to fucking stop now. Like,
it's a selfish thing, but I also I found myself, which was really unexpected, afterwards, like when people were saying, how did you do? Like, my instant response was, we did well. And so I think that it was in line with, I think, your TikTok yesterday when you were saying like the number one thing I would recommend is training with people.
It's so important. It just goes the longest way in the way that you can prepare for things.
And it flipped it on its head for me, for instead of like this thing that is seen as like, very like isolating and like running by yourself, to like, we would I was constantly training with, Zach or either you guys. During the race, had you guys by our side, and it honestly felt like we were a team. Like, we're in the trenches together, we were pushing it out, which was pretty awesome. So,
It did. I noticed so like pre-race, obviously you and I, as in days before and stuff, and you as well, Hugh, like we spoke about like carbing up before the race. I don't think I'd actually prepared myself for how I was going to feel for eating 600 to 700 grams of carbs. Like, got to the start line, never been heavier.
Yeah.
I felt like a
felt
fucking
gross.
truck. I felt like Queen Mary II, like trying to turn a corner like a cruise ship.
Big freight train getting
3-point
around.
turn.
Yeah, literally.
And Louis, how did you manage carb loading whilst you're in Sydney, obviously up there with Alive, Symbiotic? How did you manage that?
Yeah, not well.
Yeah.
I mean, I did
bring
what
food?
I did.
Or
What
were
I
you
could.
Are there many
Flying up
carbs
there?
in Alive, or?
No, there's no carbs in Alive. That's the whole point, which
Right.
is great if you're cutting, everyone. Get yours from the local Coles. But I didn't carb up. So it meant that the latter stages of the day, I was just like smashing it, like LCM boxes, bang, 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 and then like toast as well, just trying to eat heaps. And then got to the start line, so like heavy. And then throughout it for me, I had these gels, Morton gels, which are great. I stupidly got all of mine with caffeine.
Yeah, right.
Mate.
So I had, come to the end of the race, I reckon I had 600 to 700 milligrams of caffeine.
Did you have a coffee before you started as well?
No, I didn't. I had a sip of Zach's, but
Okay.
I didn't have a coffee. But it had it's so much caffeine. I was like jittery. I was like energy, but no energy.
Yeah.
And I was a bit of a mess. How do you feel?
So I've cut caffeine since like January of this year. I haven't had any caffeine. So optimization. Like I got freaked out I was listening to a podcast and they mentioned this thing about, when you're drinking coffee every day and that's in your sort of routine, you're basically operating in this caffeinated state constantly, which sort of spooked me a little bit. So I was like, I'm just going to go a month without. And then, did the sort of the caffeine withdrawal of crash, and then took about 2 or 3 weeks to get back to my baseline and felt a little bit better. And I was like, I've just spent all this time, cutting it out. Why would I go and start drinking it again? But basically, I haven't had caffeine for about 5 months. Sorry, 5 or 6 months, and then had 2 of the Morton caffeine gels, and they honestly got me through. I had my first one about an hour and a half in, or an hour in, when I was in peak in the pits of my feet were burning.
Did it just supercharge you?
Supercharged.
Oh, must be nice.
And it felt
I'd kill for that.
unreal of best thing ever, and genuinely was a savior. At that point, I was like, I really need a pick me up here, and it just it served its purpose. And then I had the second one at probably 2.5 hours in, so I had an hour to go or so, and that just got me over the line. But yeah.
I want to talk about Zach for a second. So he's the third one to the group. Mate, I call him Goggins. That bloke, he had 2 gels.
He said he was feeling really sick from the gels. Yeah.
He didn't touch it. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, you and I, every
him
30
down.
minutes, just gel, bang, gel. Mine are full of caffeine. Charlie's not so much. And we're just gel. And I'm looking at Zach like, you're not having the gels, mate? But this bloke is holding the front the whole way, pretty much.
And breaking the wind. There was 50K headwind. So most of the time, there's a few photos of us when we're running together. That was when we were in, inland a little bit. But a lot of the time we were sticking out on cliffs and in Indian file, like one behind the other, trying to get out of the wind.
Well, he's an absolute specimen. Like he's
so
unit.
hot, hey?
He's a unit.
He's so hot.
Yeah, he's doing very well for himself.
Big wide frame breaking the wind for us.
Literally.
Back behind, so.
Yeah, that was the game plan. Like so obviously like you and Zach, how tall are you?
190.
Yeah, what's that? 6 foot?
6'3".
6'3", must be nice. I'm certainly nowhere near that. So I'd sit behind you and Zach, and you guys are just units. You just break the wind. I'd sit behind you. And then we picked up this bloke around like maybe 15, 20 Ks in, right through till the end, and he was just, he'd take my spot. And I'm going, no, these are my friends. Like
You became number 4.
Yeah, I became number 4, and I'm fucking trying to get my elbows out to him, but it was brutal. So what was your time? So actually, hang on. You ran 23rd in your category, which is out of 177.
Yeah, so that was 25 to 29-year-olds.
Yep. So that's 131st overall. I came 17th in my category out of 86 and 151st overall out of 1,222.
Very impressive, guys. That's an incredible result.
I'm pretty proud of that.
You should be very proud of that.
Yeah.
I'm very
It's better
proud
than it was better than I thought. Like at the time, it just felt like there was just hundreds of people running past us. But I was actually pleasantly surprised with those results. So.
Yeah, same. So my time came back with, I think, so my Strava time came back with 3 hours 29 and what was it? And something seconds, like 29 seconds.
Yeah.
So yes. Anyway, so I got the sub 3 hour 3:30 marathon, but the actual race time was 3 hours 30 and 11 seconds, I think.
Something just over, yeah.
Something just over.
And mine was the flip. So my Strava, because I didn't have, you've got the nice Apple Watch.
The new Ultra.
The Ultra. I'm jealous, I need to get one of those. But mine kept on cutting out throughout. And I noticed progressively, we both had the voice thing talking to us of K11 this. And yours kept on popping off start off 10 seconds earlier than mine, then 30 seconds, then a minute. Because I think mine was losing reception. But my Strava, devastatingly, was 3:30 point whatever or 3:31, and then my official marathon time was 3:29. So we did a flip.
We did the flip. You probably go off the official marathon time, to be honest.
I think so. And I was surprised when I saw your Strava chart, because I was at home searching you boys up on the results to see how you came, and then I saw yours was 3:29, and then jumped on Strava and it was 3:30, and I was like, oh, he's gonna be flat with
He's
that.
gonna be dirty with that.
And I was really annoyed because you had your Insta post afterwards, you've just got the carousel, and then in it you've got the 3:29, and I was like, I'll be able to do the same thing. I was like, fuck.
What's going on?
Told everyone my target's 3:30.
Didn't tell a soul.
Yeah, but the official time is 3:29. But you were saying, which was super interesting, that you should actually go off. And I know this is counterintuitive again, but you should go off your Strava time because the race track does the optimal line.
Yeah.
And naturally, when you're running with 1,000 people or whatever,
that's right.
You take longer curves and whatnot, so you actually run further.
Exactly. Yeah. So, my approach is to, I think the Strava is a truer time than the actual official race time. But I believe if you're actually racing competitively in a marathon, or you need a PB for entry purposes, you have to take it off an official time.
Yeah.
But as Charlie said, when you're on Strava, it's true to the route you're running, whereas the time for the marathon between start and finish is based off the most optimal path throughout.
Yeah.
So it goes up and down. But just off a timing point as well, you guys have done sub 5 minute marathon over an extremely hilly course. What do we think we can do over a flat marathon?
So we were talking to this, and I think about within 24 hours of finishing, Zach had sent me a marathon calculator for the Melbourne Marathon, and I think at 4:40 splits works out to be about a 3:16.
We could do
3 hour
that.
16.
I reckon we could do that.
And I reckon that's our next target.
Yeah.
I would love, before I hang up the Nike Alpha Flies or Brooks runners or the Brooks, would be to get a sub 3 hour. But I think that's I think I need to chip away at it, but I think that holding 440s on a flat course.
I think we could do that.
One.
Yeah.
Matt, and you're joining us for that.
I'm joining. I think for me personally, somewhere in I think achievable is somewhere in the sub 310. And I think on a great day, flat, if I was really fit, sub 3 is definitely doable.
Do you reckon you can do that this year, 2023?
I think I can do sub 3 this year.
I reckon you can.
To be fair, when we did the 10 10K sprint.
Yeah.
Your time was significantly better than mine and Louis.
Oh, you're going sub 40.
And there was a bit like in the last like hour or two when we all started to separate, and then I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna put on the throttle here, and then you were about 100 meters away, and every corner you just would jump and like teleport an extra 100 meters and 100 meters and 100 meters, and then you ended up being like fucking 500 meters away from me by the finish.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But like the thing is, sub 3 sounds really achievable in person, but it's actually like a 4:15 split for the marathon, which when you think about it like that is fucking quick. That's
too quick.
Sub 3 hours it sounds way easier than 4:15.
Maybe giving up beers, you're giving up.
Yeah,
you need
I don't know if I've got that in me though.
Yeah,
like,
same.
I tried to give up beers for this and lasted 2 weeks.
Same.
Maybe Gold Coast next year, like the flattest
this year.
route.
I'm doing it this year as well.
You are? Wow.
We might have to do it.
Come up.
I'm the filmer, so I'll come up.
Both should.
With the gibble. Well, yeah, Gold Coast is probably your option.
I don't think I'll be able to get it at Gold Coast. I would need. I think if I'll have a crack at Melbourne Mara.
Yeah.
I think Melbourne Mara will try and be sub 3.
What are you?
We'll run as a group.
What are you? I reckon. Holding 440s for Melbourne Mara will be me, and I think that we could probably get a little group again.
I reckon you'll be able to go. I reckon if you can do high to mid 430s. Would be a great time and something to be proud of.
I think that the general consensus is that we're not going to, start training for the marathon again next week. So I think that there's probably some gymming and some probably leisure that we're putting in between there. But I think that having that as like the progressive target and then, just staggering our improvement.
Yeah.
But what are the ones that like, I'm sure you've been searching like key marathons that you're keen to jump on, like the ones that have like really sparked my interest is like, Gold Coast probably next year. I really like the look of Queenstown, which is like November.
Queenstown, we should go.
Probably next year though. I reckon that looks beautiful. That's running from I can't remember the town, but you finish in Queenstown, so it's a little bit like downhill, and then it's probably like 70% running on like gravel and stuff, which is pretty sick.
Trail run.
Yeah, it's trail, but it's gravel road. Yeah, basically.
Brooks will get us in some good trail running shoes. I can guarantee you that.
Sure. Brooks sorted me out very nicely for the run around over the weekend, which I'm thankful for. It's just amazing having a fresh set of shoes to chuck on every couple of Ks.
Yeah. What shoes were you wearing? What was the? I was cycling.
Hyperion Max is what.
Well, I wore the Hyperion Max to finish. Because they're I guess more classified as a speed shoe, so I wasn't wearing them through the night and the bulk of the running. But I did wear the Hyperion Max for my 10K, which I ran recently. Yeah, that was the first time I wore them, and I reckon they helped massively. But I was wearing the Glycerian 20s and the Ghost 14s.
Yep,
is the latest
model. Was the Ghosts.
The Ghost, whatever the latest model of the Ghosts are, and the Glycerian. And they were fantastic, just heaps of support. The thing about those shoes as well is they really lock your heel in place and it doesn't go anywhere, and plenty of cushion. So, get on the Brooks.
Did you take your Brooks off between running?
I was, but maybe Louis can make a video on this, but it's called the runner's knot, and it's a knot you tie with your shoes to lock your ankles in place so they don't wobble around. And that it's actually quite not complicated, but it's quite onerous to tie and untie. So I was just getting sick of like untying it and tying it again. So I just ended up leaving them on.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Charlie, what would you change about your preparation for the marathon?
I was thinking this. So back to the blisters was definitely the biggest hindrance for me. And leading up to it, I had small blisters starting to show. So that there was a bit of caution.
Your feet were in strife.
Oh, mate, they were cooked. Because he wasn't wearing Brooks, that's why.
Yeah. Need to set myself up with a pair of those. But had little blisters on either foot. Was a bit worried about it beforehand. The two sort of, or the obvious decision would be to strap them up. But I had the bright idea or the bright suggestion from Nath Freeman to rub numbing cream on it.
Shout out Nath Freeman.
Which it makes sense. Like numbing cream. Like you go get a tattoo or an injection or something like that, and they rub numbing cream on it, and it makes you not be able to feel. But what it did for me is it actually softened the skin, and just caused basically the whole bottom of my foot to peel off progressively throughout the race. So if I had my time again, I'm definitely not doing that. And the other one would be when I was carb loading. Every day I was having risotto mixed in with like refried beans. And I was like, that sounds like an awesome meal. But it ended up being like a kilo of this like
Yuck.
risotto loaf that I was eating. And it was just the heaviest thing ever. So if I had my time again, I'd try to find a more dense carb food than having to eat like a full kilo of risotto.
Sweet potato mash.
Yeah. How much would you eat of that though? So like my thing was like, I measured it all out, and I had these like 1 kilo, things of Tupperware, and it was like filled to the brim. And yeah, it was a lot in the stomach.
That's a lot of food to get down.
It was a lot.
The thing I'd change would be the gels. I had too much caffeine that day. I wish I utilised caffeine better.
I think half is probably your optimal of like rotating between like, and like I think like shout out to Morton, like they were unreal. That was the first time I'd ever raced with them. I was recommended. Apparently all the pros use those
TikTok,
gels.
Morton.
They were thicker than
thick.
like the normal one, and they weren't too like. The worst thing about gels is for me like when you get like really sticky and it's sort of like
it's not like honey,
and it just like it's almost like phlegm in your mouth.
Some of the other ones, if they spill on your hands and like they coat the inside of your mouth. It's just like heaps of sugar. They're kind of gross.
But the Mortons are like relatively bland, not much flavour. You squeeze them out, it's almost like swallowing jelly. And then another thing that was awesome was these like blocks. Like they're like carbohydrate blocks. So we're almost like lollies, just like super easy to eat. And I was just like smashing them for the last like 5Ks. And they got me over the line.
Yeah, absolutely.
Louis, and then just finally as well, in terms of your prep, anything you'd change?
No, not a whole lot. I probably like had too many nights on the beers. But mate, I honestly ran the best run I think I could have run. I probably could have gotten a little bit better time, but I wouldn't change for the world. The only thing I'd change is after the race. I wish we did it on a Saturday. You, me, and Zach, who we ran the race with. Ideally, you as well. Hugh, is like we could all have a beer together and like actually sit down and like decompress after it.
Yeah.
We kind of went our separate ways, which I had a fantastic time after the marathon. But I think if we do the Melbourne Marathon or anything else, like you want to like get. Like you boys get days off work and like, or you get days off work, Hugh, and like we can lock in for like a couple of days after. And it doesn't mean we're getting pissed every day, but just like able to just spend time together because it's such like a big achievement and it's such like an emotional achievement as well that you kind of want to be able to.
And particularly when you're out training, like so when we've been doing our training together, we've shared a lot of the battles and a lot of the hardships together out on the track. And so you want to be able to then get together and celebrate what you've done. But I know. Well, I'm locked in for Melbourne Marathon. I know you are.
Yeah, I'm locked in as well.
We'll be there. And
is that on a Saturday? Surely.
I'm pretty.
I think Sunday is like the standard.
Joking.
Getting work off, mate. So
I'm going to call
put your leave in now. Yeah, fantastic. All right. Well, we have a huge Q&A bag. Like it is massive. So I don't know if we'll get through all of it. I had a little point here for future runs. Just quickly for me, future runs, Melbourne Marathon. I want to do potentially Sydney Marathon and honestly anything you boys are up to. What about you, Charlie, and then you, Hugh?
I think Melbourne at the end of this year. I'd also just recommend for anyone listening that's, considering it, like if like the marathon is, too overwhelming, there's heaps of events that are like, a little bit less than that. So I think at Lorne there was like a 7, a 14, a 21, the marathon and the ultra. So anyone that's considering sort of, dipping their toes into it, for me, I found it like an awesome way to, build sort of like a routine and like a structure and like work towards it. So if you're listening to this and you're, overwhelmed by doing a 24-hour race or a full marathon, like I know for me, like if I was listening to this 6 months ago, I thought that was just so unachievable for me. But if you do like set your mind to it, I think you can definitely like push yourself, but also like, there's just as much admiration in doing, the half or even a 10K or whatnot on the actual day. So just like, try to rope a mate into it and, sign up and, just set yourself the goal and go from there. But yeah, for me, Melbourne Marathon this year, next year, I'd love to do Gold Coast, might skip on the Great Ocean Road again.
Yeah, I'm not doing that again.
and then maybe Queenstown next year, I think would be beautiful because I absolutely loved New Zealand.
No, I really appreciate what you said there, Charlie, about you shouldn't be comparing yourself to anyone. Just get out there and do what you can do. And basically every marathon has anything from like a 5K through to the full marathon. So choose a distance that you want to do. For me, this year I'll have Gold Coast Marathon. I'd love to get up into the city to surf. I think that'd be really fun. I did it once when I was maybe 14, but I'd love to go and do it again in Sydney.
Yeah.
City to surf is from the city in Sydney to Bondi. It's 14K.
A company is on the Sunday Run program for that. Shout out to Australian Property Institute. They are doing the Sunday Run programming. I'll probably be there this year.
Yeah, well, maybe we can go up and do that.
Let's do it.
And then Melbourne Mara and to be TBC from there, I think.
Fantastic. All right, huge Q&A here. First question is from Hugh Knox. How do I get a rig like you boys? Hugh, do you want to answer that one, mate?
You can't ask me that. I'm asking you.
I'll answer for Louis. So just sit in the gym every day.
Have a full
job,
home
full-time
gym set up. You don't have to go to a commercial gym
and you can't go to work either.
Yeah. Full-time
And then promote it like you have a job as well. That's the ticket, guys. That's how you sell programs. Fantastic. All right, next one is from Jog on Crago. Says, shoe choice for each of ya.
Well, depending, but the one that I'm enjoying the most, which shout out Brooks, is the Hyperion Max.
Yep.
They just feel unreal.
Yeah.
For me, it was the Hyperion Elite, which is their elite shoe. It's the one I wore in the marathon. Carbon plated, the sexiest looking shoe out there, I reckon.
Yeah, and for me, despite the heinous blisters, was the Nike Alpha Flies. I've worn them for the last 6 months, and
It was just the chafing in the water that got you with the blisters.
yeah, that's it. And the Nummet. But yeah, I reckon that they generally knocked about 10% off my running time. So
Yeah, they're genuinely incredible, the Alpha Flights. All right, next one, question for you, Charlie, from Jordan Coley. I think I'm running my first marathon on the 21st in Adelaide. Any tips? Yeah, any tips / would you be down? Do you want to come?
Ooh, congrats, Jordan. That's super exciting. I think that for me, the main tip would be, I think focusing the importance on the 80-20 rule and the lead up to your training block, doing as many slow runs that you possibly can. When I was doing it, as I said before, I was focusing on doing a half marathon every week. I was trying to basically edge my time faster and faster and faster, where I should have been focusing on, trying to keep my heart rate in zone 2, which is about, 125 to 140 beats per minute, and also trying to increase my time on legs. I think that that's the number one recommendation. Additionally, I think the emphasis on getting your nutrition right in the 3 days leading up to it. So for me, prior to this, learning curve, a carb load for me was having a big bowl of pasta the night before, and that was it. Where realistically it's 3 days out, you're having huge meals every meal, and then you sort of taper off the night before. I would say that they're my two recommendations, and maybe not Adelaide this year, but would definitely consider it next
year. All right, one for Hugh. Jelena Don says, how to balance training and social life.
My specialty. No, I'd say that if you want to be training and being social, the best thing to do is to block out a specific time in your week for either. So, for example, for me, through this period, I've just said no Friday nights. And not having Friday nights means you can stay at home, even get some of your mates on board and have a night in on Friday night, get up Saturday morning, exercise Saturday, enjoy your Saturday, and then go out Saturday night. And for me, that was a really great balance because I could get both of things I loved in one. And then I also think there's nothing better than exercising on a Saturday morning. It's a beautiful time to be out during the day. But then sort of, I guess, more broadly in terms of your week, it's all just about prioritizing your time and understanding where you want it to go. And if you're, I don't know what you're training for, but if you're training for something big or you're trying to get quite competitive, the social life will take a hit, but end of the day, it'll be worth it, and you'll work it out. But otherwise, if you're just training for fitness or just for fun,
you have to compromise a little bit.
You're going to have to make a compromise, but it's just about where or when you make the compromise. But I think, if you can scale back Friday, Saturday nights at the pub to just Friday night at the pub, or just Saturday night at the pub rather, you'll be all better off for it.
Love it. We're going to need 20-second answers here, lads. Otherwise, we'll never get through it. One from Johnny. Shout out to Johnny from England. Mentality. How do you fight the demons and push through for you, Charlie?
I reckon this is one for you, Lou.
Fighting the demons, pushing through. Make it a non-negotiable before the run. You have to finish it. I don't care if you can walk, then you can run, and unless you blow a hammy or do an ACL, even then, I reckon you can still keep going. So that's a big one. Recovery tips after a long run, Charlie.
I was going ice baths again. That was awesome. High carb meals afterwards. Basically just taking it easy. were like my 3 tips. But I would say like getting in like cold water. Like I went in the ocean twice in the 24 hours after the race, and yeah, it was a saviour. Also, like Epsom salts as well. Having a bath was great.
One for you. For Knoxy, toughest part of the 24 hours, how was the head noise dark solo running from James Blair?
Thanks, JV. One of my good mates. I appreciate you sending in the question, mate. Head noise was horrible, to be honest. There's nothing you can do about it, though, and it's just about trying to, cut it out as much as possible and push on. In terms of running through the night, and the worst part, as I said, kind of earlier, 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. was brutal. But when you've got people around you and you've got an overarching cause, you'll just get it done.
Beautiful. For Charlie, what are the goals for the next 12 months for volley for Charlie from jackgree.n?
Thanks, Jack. I think the main goals for volley is like we're launching our app in about 2 to 3 months, which is super exciting. We're really trying to make as much impact as possible. So you guys have been such an awesome case to work with in that, like, I would consider that like a huge success. But really, like, we just want to do as much good as we possibly can. So we're like desperately finding, searching for, I guess, like influencers that are wanting to do good, and then simultaneously like good stories that are unique and different that people can really rally behind. So for us, I guess like the main goal is just to do as much good as we possibly can.
Fantastic. For Hugh, I assume, from Ryan Owen _05, what's with the skinhead trim?
Thanks, Ryan.
Don't know if we can answer that.
Efficiency, mate. Shave it and you'll see what I mean.
Speed.
Efficiency. All right. From Bonnie.Louise, do you have someone that inspires you? If so, who? For me personally, inspiration, friends and family. I don't have anyone specifically. My dad, maybe. And he can't run for shit, but I get inspired by him. Yeah,
definitely me and my family. I feel like my family's a low-hanging fruit, but not to sound cliche, but I get so much motivation off like the David Goggins TikToks and stuff like that. So
You don't know me, son.
that was definitely ringing my head.
Huey?
For me, I have to go for the low-hanging fruit as well. Obviously, family, it's been a pretty overarching theme for me.
Fair enough, mate. We'll allow it for you.
We've carried on about that for a while now, so.
We'll allow it. Running playlist from Alexandra Colts.
Yeah, so I controversial opinion, I don't like listening to music when I run. Reason being is that a song goes for 4 minutes, and especially if you're going for a long run, you end up listening to a lot of songs, which I feel like makes it longer. My favourite thing to listen to is a podcast, and a long podcast. So,
Sunday Run.
If you're listening to Sunday Run now, I hope you're a fair way into the run, and it's made it a little bit easier. But me, personal preference is a long podcast.
Yeah, for me, it's just fast, up-tempo electronic music. So particularly trance for me.
Yeah, you love that.
Tempo.
What about you, Lou?
Country music, mate.
Yeah.
I love country music. I'm in my country era.
Who's your favourite artist?
Zach Bryan at the moment. He makes me almost tear up.
I saw him on TikTok.
He's beautiful.
Yeah, same. That's how I figured him out. Marathon this Sunday. Physio told me not to run for 2 weeks. Tips/glass hips. So he's got glass hips. Been told not to run for 2 weeks.
I'm not a professional. I would probably listen to the physio because I don't really know about glass hips.
No, don't listen to the physio.
For us, I think we had a week off.
Yeah.
Probably. We did the big.
Should have done longer though, I reckon.
You reckon?
I reckon for me personally, I think if I had more time and did a longer training block, my what's it called? The taper period should have been longer.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for me, I'm the opposite. I wish I didn't taper, or wish I tapered for 5 days, because I think Charlie had the same experience.
Bad. Yeah.
I felt my body, I think because I'd pushed my body so hard, when I started to taper, my body's begun to recover. And then when I started training, running again, it was in this weird limbo of performing/recovering.
I think I tapered, not necessarily the length, but during the week, I didn't run enough. And even if it was 1 or 2 Ks, which I actually felt really hard to build up motivation to do that, because you've been going for all these massive runs that almost seem pointless. But I think that would have really helped us, Hugh. And I think that there's a lot of guides on the internet which show the breakdown leading up to the marathon. I know Louis got an awesome guide as well, leading up to the actual race day. So
bottom line though, I think listen to your body.
Yep. Great call. All right, last question from Miles Levenspiel says, how do you get started with running? I'll chip in there. The Sunday Run programs, we have a beginner program. You can get into that. It's literally free. You literally sign up. It gets sent to you every Sunday. You have a run to do. But before that, if you just can't figure it out, if you can't get started, 30 seconds of jogging, 30 seconds of walking. Do that for 10 minutes, do that for 20 minutes, and change the rest time.
Yeah, and don't look to break any records as well. I think that's the number one thing for me. Like, your ego always plays into it. Like, I used to think that I have to run it, the pace that I was running 3 years ago when I used to run. Like, don't get me wrong, like, I'm on a running podcast. Like, I used to fucking hate running. Like,
I think we all did, yeah.
I used to hide at footy training when we were doing the 2Ks. Like, school cross country, I used to try to fake sick or try to, fake an injury just so I could get out of it. Like, it's not something that I enjoyed doing. And I think that just because I would get in my head I have to run a certain time. But if I was starting and going again, I'd number one, find a mate. And then just try to, and it sounds stupid, try to run as slow as you can. And then just try, and I wouldn't focus on, your pace. And I think that you summarized it well. Just try to do your time of actually running. So if you manage to get, 30 seconds or 5 minutes or 10 minutes, the next time try to do maybe 12 or 15. And don't worry about how quick you're doing it at all.
Huey, anything from you?
So aside from looking at the podcast, looking at the Sunday Run program, or looking at Louis' Instagram.
Shout out, Louis.
Thanks, boys. Needed that.
I think the best thing you can do is just go out there with zero expectations of yourself and just realise that whatever you do is better than not doing it. And just put the shorts on and go for a walk, go for a run, do the 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, and just slowly build up over a certain amount of time. And even, it just depends on anyone's situation, but something that may help as well is buy yourself a nice new pair of shoes. Buy yourself like a nice running shirt or some running shorts, and just use that at least. Like, you need to get some use out of it if you're going to buy it, and do that and get into it from there.
And it's like they're saying, if you're absolutely battling demons just to start, just put your shoes on.
Put your shoes on.
Once you put your running shoes on, it's very unlikely that you're going to not go for a run.
Yeah.
So I think that it's a good way just to, segment that.
I agree.
Beautiful, lads. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been great fun. I'm sure we'll do more in the future. We've got a few huge runs coming up. If you want to follow Hugh_Knox or Hugh.Knox.
Hugh Knox, straight up.
HUWKNOX. Charlie Crozier, what's your Instagram?
X Charlie Crozier. So Crozier spelled CROZIER. And then Volley is VOLI.now.
Shout out to Volley.
Fantastic. Shout out to Volley. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Cheers, Lou.